document the devastating impacts of climate change and question humanity's ability to reverse what may be the most catastrophic problem mankind has ever faced. It was a lot to take on. All that we witnessed on this journey shows us that our world's climate is incredibly interconnected, and it is at an urgent breaking point. Just since this film finished, it's hard to keep up with the catastrophic news that happens weekly about our planet. Last July was the hottest month ever recorded, and 2016 is on pace to be the hottest year on record. The global goal was once aimed at halting the concentration of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere at 350 parts per million to avoid the most catastrophic impacts of climate change. 2 weeks ago, we learned that we have indeed passed 400 parts per million. Last week, scientists declared that the bleaching of coral reefs in Australia was so severe that they have declared the reef virtually dead. If we keep acidifying our ocean, it may never recover. We're hearing news and reports like this on a constant basis. The truth is the clock is ticking. The planet is in dire need of all of our help, and that is why we're here tonight, to try to relay this information to all of you, because it is ultimately up to all of us to make a difference. That is why we made this film. Fisher? Thank you.
First of all, I would just like to say a special thank you to Leo for including me on this journey. It has been quite a ride. You're gonna see a 90-minute film, but we could probably have made 4 of these and kept shooting. As Leo says, the news does keep getting worse. But the good news is that along the way, we actually learned how to solve this challenge and slow things down, if not reverse things. And we have the ingenuity and the technology required to make massive changes right now. You're going to see some of that tonight. And in the film, you are going to hear from scientists, activists, world leaders, amazing, inspirational people who are determined now more than ever to help enlighten the world, to help implement these solutions on a global scale. It's humanity that got us into this mess, and it's all of us that can get us out of it. So we hope that you enjoy what you're about to see, and I would like to really do a special thanks to Courtney Monroe and Tim Pastor of National Geographic for having the faith and seeing this film early on and saying we want to blast it out to the world before the United States presidential election in particular. I'd like to say a special thanks to Trevor Davidovsky, our producers in the house, Zara Duffy, Brett Banks, one of our editors, and Paul Rose, who is one of our explorers in the Arctic. You're going to hear his voice. You won't see him in this version of the film. But I would and a special thanks to Rat Pack Films for financing this. And really, we're grateful that you all came out tonight in London and to see this film and to the London Film Festival. So thank you very much.
Fisher, can I ask you, I'm going to ask them a couple of questions. Fisher, can I ask you first, just, very recently produced, Oscar-nominated documentary, Racing Extinction, that has an environmental impact at its core, and you've returned very rapidly to similar territory in this film. Can you, and this time as director, can you tell us a little bit about that decision and that journey?
Well, once you go down this little path of learning about climate change, it becomes a bit, as Leo's been doing it for a lot longer than I have, but it becomes something that you really become more and more passionate about and want to get it out there. And when he asked me to join him on this journey, I thought this was the perfect person to get the message out in an even bigger way. So one thing maybe all of you should think about when you see this film, that it's in the year 2050, the population of the planet might be up to 9.5 to 10 billion people. Right now we're at about 7.6. China has a booming middle class. India has a hopefully a booming middle class. So when you watch the movie, think about what the planet's going to look like 30 years from now, and how these people are going to get energy and power. So I just had my second child. I care about the world, and when he called to do this, I just thought he was the perfect person, and I just had to do it.
Well, as an Australian, Leo, what you're saying about the reefs is incredibly devastating to me, as indeed so much of what is covered in the film is. You clearly have a great passion for this subject. You also, in the film, as is very clear, have a strong interest in inquiring further into it. Can you sort of elaborate a little bit more on what motivates you, and also why now with this film?
Well, it's interesting. I've been incredibly moved by so many climate change documentaries in the past, but I never felt that I saw one that articulated the science clearly to the public. I think people grasp it, but it seems something distant, it seems something far off, it seems something intangible and almost otherworldly, that an individual doesn't feel like they can make an impact. So the journey for me was to try to make a modern day film about climate change. I've been studying this issue for the past 15 years. I've been watching it very closely, and what's incredibly terrifying is things are happening way ahead of scientific projections. All the scientific projections 15 or 20 years ago, we've far surpassed all of them. These things are happening today. We wanted to create a film that gave people a sense of urgency, that made them understand what particular things are going to solve this problem. We bring up the issue of a carbon tax, for example, which I haven't seen in many documentaries, which will, basically sway a capitalistic economy to try to invest in renewables, to bring less money and subsidies out of oil companies. These are the things that are really going to make a massive difference. It's gone beyond, as we talk about in the film, simple individual action. We need to use our vote. And I've said this so many times throughout the promotion of this film, but we cannot afford to have political leaders out there that do not believe in modern science or the scientific method or empirical truths. The modern world that we live in, and that believe that we as a global community can truly make a difference. The time is out. As the clock has sort of struck the final hour. We need to make a difference right now, because we're already going to feel the implications of climate change. We're already seeing in my hometown a massive, unprecedented drought that will not reverse itself. Irreversible situations where we have wildfires. We just had a massive storm hit the southeast coast of the United States. These problems are happening all over the world. We wanted to make a film that made people understand that this is a problem that's happening right now. It's getting worse and worse, and we cannot afford to waste time having people in power that choose to believe in 2% of the scientific community that is basically bought off by lobbyists and oil companies. They are living in the Stone Ages, they're living in the Dark Ages. We need to live into the future, and climate change is the future, and it is happening now.
I just want to apologize for the reality show that's taking place in our country right now. This presidential election, and I'm sorry that you've had to suffer. We're hoping that it will end soon, and we'll have a female president.
I'd like to thank both of you so much for being here this evening and for bringing us Before the Flood. Thank you, Fisher Stevens, Leonardo Dicaprio.